about the Middle Ages. What do we mean by the middle? I'm in the middle of the hallway. I'm in the middle of the doors. I'm between the doors. I'm in the middle of the sidewalk. In the middle of some animals. So what do we mean when we say the Middle Ages? What does that mean? So being in the middle means you're in between two things. But I wonder, what do you think? Do the people that lived at this time, did they think of themselves as the Middle Ages? So take a minute, talk to the people around you about what did the people back then think of themselves? Did they think, oh gee, we're in the Middle Ages? So take a minute and talk about that. So you probably want to have a piece of paper or notebook out to write some things down. I'm going to give you some dates to kind of get us an idea of when we're talking about. We're going to talk about some whens, wheres, and all that kind of good stuff. So first of all, the Middle Ages is a term that historians came up with later. Obviously the people back then didn't know they were living in the Middle Ages. What happened in 470 Common Era, which we used to call AD, but we've taken religion out of everything, so the Common Era, 470, is when the Roman Empire so-called fell, and all that means is it kind of got out of business. They were having a lot of difficulties. So the thing that's important to remember, though, is the Roman Empire was really divided into two parts. There was a part in the west and a part in the east. The eastern part kept going. The western part was the one that stopped working because a lot of people had come in and conquered territories. There were a lot of wars and fighting going on, and they had taken over. So that's what we mean by the fall of the Roman Empire. In Europe, kind of ceased to exist. The Roman Empire kind of ceased to exist. So write down in your writing, your notebook or your paper, 470 was the fall of the Roman Empire, and maybe something about what that means to you. Talk to the other people around you. What do you think what would the fall of the Roman Empire mean? What does that mean? And also talk about how long ago was that compared to where we are today. Take a minute to do that, and we'll pause the video, and we'll be back. Okay, well, we talked about the fall of the Roman Empire, but maybe we need to go back and remember what is an empire. So I wrote a question up here on the board. Maybe you want to write it down in your writing too. What is an empire? What does that mean? What is an empire? And it's not an easy concept to understand, but it's when lots of different people and lots of different places are under the control of one government. One big government is taking over all kinds of places. And in the Roman Empire actually extended from Europe, England, which wasn't England at the time, but England and lots of Europe and Italy and Greece and Turkey. Lots of the world was controlled by the Roman government. This is from your social studies book, so you can look that up. That's what the Roman Empire looked like before it went out of existence. And then, that's on page 394, by the way. And then, what's called the Byzantine Empire, or the eastern part, looked like this. So you can see it's a lot smaller, but that was going on during the Middle Ages. They continued to exist. And that's what we mean by the empire. Now I want you to think a minute. What happens? Why do we have governments in the first place? Why do we need a government? And what would happen if the government went out of existence? What kind of problems or issues or opportunities would come about because the government ceased to exist? So I want you to talk to your people around you about what do you think would happen if the government ceased to exist? The question that I want you to think about, and this is kind of going to wrap things up here for today, is why do we have governments, and what would happen if the government went out of existence? So a couple choices would be we could have chaos, or what they call anarchy, which means no government at all, and people just run around and do whatever they want to, or we can have some form of government, and there's different kinds, and we're going to talk about a special kind next time, a system of government. But remember, when you have governments, it also is involved with economics, or how people make a living. Do they trade? Do they use money? Do they buy, sell? That's all tied into the government. And also laws. And we're going to see in the Middle Ages, one big influence on government was religion. Religion was very influential in the Middle Ages in lots of different ways. So we're going to talk about that. So in Europe, the Middle Ages considered to be from 470 to sometime in the 1400s, when they had what they call the reawakening, the Renaissance. That started in the 1400s in different places. So that's kind of the introduction to the Middle Ages. Why do we call it the Middle Ages? Because it's between two periods in history. Sometimes they say it's in Europe, it's between the ancient times and the modern times. But remember, there were things going on all over the world. All over the earth, there were things happening in different places. And sometimes we focus a lot on Europe because a lot of our ancestors are from Europe. But that's not the only place things were happening. There were things happening all over the place. And I think you've already watched, or you will watch a video that kind of shows a timeline that shows some of the things are happening all in Africa. There are things happening in Asia. There were things happening in North and South America. People were living and having governments and doing things and having wars, and all kinds of things were going on all over the earth. The Middle Ages is a period of history that's pretty much Europe. So we'll talk again next time. And next time I think we're going to talk about feudalism. Have a great day.